فلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كلام الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him and we seek help from Him and we seek forgiveness from Him. We seek refuge with Him from the evil of ourselves and the sins of our actions. Whomever Allah guides, no one can misguide, and whomever Allah misguides, no one can guide. I testify that there is no true God except Allah alone without any partners, and that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His slave and messenger. O you who have believed, fear Allah as He must be feared, and do not die by any means in any state except by as Muslims. O people, fear your Lord who has created you from a single soul, then created its spouse from it for it, and spread many men and women from them. Fear Allah through whom you ask one another, and fear to cut your relations with your relatives. Indeed, Allah is ever watchful over what you do. O you who have believed, fear Allah and say a saying that is right. He will improve your deeds and forgive your sins, and whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger has achieved great success. The best speech is the speech of Allah, and the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The worst things are new things in the religion. Every such new thing is an innovation. Every innovation is a bid'ah, and every innovation leads us astray, and everything that leads us astray is in the hellfire. Respected brothers and sisters, today the topic is extremely important because this topic concerns all of us, whether we are children or parents or siblings, brothers and sisters, or any member of society, because the evil that I'm going to talk about and warn you against is spreading even into Muslim countries. And that evil is the evil of drugs, which can be comparable, if not worse, to alcohol, because both share similar characteristics. And as you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made intoxicants, any intoxicant which in Arabic we call muskir, any intoxicant haram, and intoxicants are divided into different classes, they have different effects, but they are all haram. Because the Prophet ﷺ speaking on behalf of Allah, said that anything, a large quantity of which intoxicates, it's impermissible to take small quantity of it. So if we know anything, the large quantity of which intoxicates, we cannot take anything of it in any quantity. And this hadith clearly states and the difference between non-alcoholic drinks and alcoholic drinks. So you may have a non-alcoholic drink that however much you drink it doesn't intoxicate, and you may have an alcoholic drink that may be weak, but if you drink too much of it, it will intoxicate. So that is the difference. The second point is that drugs, as you know, are in many ways worse than alcohol. Liquor and beer and things like that, different names, but they all do one thing. They remove the ability of the person to take control of their mind and therefore their actions. For that reason, it is impermissible, because the Prophet ﷺ was sent, as Allah said in Surah Al-A'raf, يُحِلُّ لَهُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. He described his messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam as making halal that which is good and beneficial, and making haram impermissible that which is filthy, khaba'ith, filthy, harmful. That's why we must get used to calling good names, and not calling bad names good names. And that is, the Prophet ﷺ said, people will drink khamr before the day of judgment, intoxicants and alcohol, and will call it by other than its name. And generally people who commit sins, they don't call their sin bad names, because they feel bad if you call it bad name. If you say to someone, you're an alcoholic, you're an alcohol addict, they'll say, no, I'm not. You're a drug addict. They don't. But we must call things as they are, especially bad things. And of course, that principle has existed in Islam from the beginning, whereas people like the smoking companies and others have only just started after numerous, many deaths and lawsuits where they had to pay huge amounts of money to people who suffered. They started showing on their packs people, or rather their body parts, especially the mouth and other things where cancer can occur, what smoking does to that individual. And they started writing, they were forced to start writing smoking kills. And the amazing thing is that some Muslims until now consider smoking to be not haram, when already non-Muslim companies that make the thing say it's haram. The reason I mention smoking is because it's one of the ways that leads to drugs. Because when Allah makes something haram, He makes everything leading to it haram. For example, He said, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا. Don't go near zina. Do not go near fornication or adultery. Illegal sex with the member of the opposite sex. Do not go near it, which means don't look, don't speak, don't touch, and don't do those things. So the same applies to anything else Allah made haram. So a faqih, a person who is knowledgeable in Islam and understands it, is a person who understands that whenever we have a haram, things leading to it also are haram. And it's not a faqih who forces men and women to mix and then says, don't commit zina. This goes against Islam. The same applies to someone who says smoking is okay, but smoking marijuana or hashish is not okay. Smoking is not okay, number one, because it leads to hashish. Then it leads to other things, because the people who sell it, they're clever in a bad way. Because they first offer. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, after He said, كُلُّوا مِمَّا فِي الْأَرْضِ حَلَالًا طَيِّبًا. He said, whatever is in the earth that Allah made from halal and good, beneficial, eat from it. And He said, don't follow the steps of shaitan. What's it got to do with eating? Because shaitan can come in steps. He doesn't come straight away. In steps. First He says, smoking is, some people say makruh. And unfortunately, we have even some who have, they say knowledge and they say it's makruh. But mostly it's people who make money from smoking. They say it's makruh. It's not makruh, it's haram without any doubt. It's killing Muslims and non-Muslims. So this is one of the avenues to drugs. Because most people who go onto drugs, they don't come through the avenue of alcohol, even though it's possible. But they go through mostly smoking. So therefore we must state clearly from the minbar, because this is one place left for us to address a large gathering of Muslims, because most Muslims don't come to lessons. So don't hope that one day in a lesson you will say to all the Muslims, no, from the minbar. And tell everyone you know, brothers and sisters, that smoking is haram, and it increases in haram if it leads to other worse things. So deliver that. Don't be shy if it's your father or mother or sister or brother or whatever it may be, or your relative. Remind them that smoking kills. It says on the pack. It's like on the pack it says bread kills, but let's buy it. MashaAllah, it's nice. You know, this is totally unreasonable. For that reason, not only are drugs not allowed, and you have a duty, brothers and sisters, if someone offers you drugs, to report them to the police. It's a duty, even if it's your own relative. Because if they don't stop, they will, what will happen to the youth? What will happen to other people? What will happen to schools? Do we want our relatives, our sons, daughters, or brothers and sisters to be drug addicts? No one wants that. The Prophet ﷺ, when someone came to him and said, Ya Rasulullah, allow me to do zina. Allow me to do zina. He said, do you like your mother, someone does zina to her? He said, no. So he said, people's mothers, they also don't like. Do you like your sister, and so on? So apply it to yourself, brothers. If you say to people it's halal, apply it to yourself. You say smoking is halal, you want your child to die of cancer because of smoking, apply it to yourself. Don't say Muslims can do and I can't do. No, it's the same rule. So when we talk about drugs, we must know the ahadith about intoxicants. And we must know ayat about khamr, intoxicants. Because Allah said khamr, shaitan wants you to have enmity between yourselves. Because when you intoxicate your mind and you use alcohol or drugs, then you can't most of the time control yourself. You don't remember Allah, and He singled out salah. Salah. You can't pray. Allah said, don't pray when you're drunk. And the Prophet ﷺ said, the person, that was a stage. The Prophet ﷺ said, the person who drinks alcohol, what do you think of drugs? 40 nights his prayer is not accepted. Why? He must pray. It's punishment. And he must be punished by the state. And that's why don't be surprised when people say, A'udhu Billah, this drug dealer, he was arrested, he was given such a long jail term. This is a huge crime against the society, against all humankind. People who make money through haram. How many Muslims we have? People who want to make money through haram. They say, mashallah, the job is good because, you know, it pays. We say, Allah said to eat halal, tayyib. Halal, tayyib, not any money you can eat. Not any money you can earn. The Prophet ﷺ said, none of you will die until you complete your rizq. It's been written. No one will take one penny from you, one dirham from you that was written for you. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, فَأَجْمِلُوا فِي الطَّلَبِ. So make it jameel when you look for your rizq. Don't look in haram. Because he said, what is with Allah, you can't get through haram. So we must know that. And we must educate our children and our friends and our loved ones. And we must remind each other that this dunya is nothing. Don't sell your deen for it. Don't do haram. And especially things like drugs and alcohol and intoxicants and this. We must, within our heart, we must reject it. And with our tongue, we must reject it. We must advise people in a nice way that it's not permissible. And everyone must know it. And we as parents and members of society, we have a responsibility in front of other people. Don't think that it's just myself and that's it. We have responsibilities. And we must not run away from them, because we will be asked. For that reason, we must know, if we know people who are dealing in drugs, we must identify them. We must talk to them and advise them. If they don't get advice, we must report them, because these are people who corrupt us. So, dear brothers and sisters, we must know the danger of these things. Everything that Allah made haram is dangerous and harmful. For that reason, this is one of those things, and we have a duty. Anyone who knows what Allah said, we have a duty to warn the Muslims in front of Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. Respected brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ described a person who drinks intoxicants, and this of course, like we said, includes drugs. That Allah has made a binding upon himself that he will make him drink because he drinks. As you know, Allah punishes the person according to his sin, and he rewards the person according to his good deeds. So if you are good to Allah and you're good to people, your reward will be good. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان? Allah said in Surah Al-Rahman, when you do ihsan, will you get reward anything but ihsan? But when you drink and you poison yourself, that will be the reward. The Prophet ﷺ said in Sahih Muslim that the person who drinks alcohol or intoxicants, because generally it's taken through the mouth, and even if it's taken intravenously into your vein, it goes into your system. The Prophet ﷺ said he will drink from the discharge of the people of Nar, discharge of the people of the hellfire. Ya Ikhwan, if someone said he will drink from discharge of people of dunya, what do you think of it? Yani urine, for example. Who likes to drink urine? But people of Jahannam, what do they eat? What do they drink that they discharge? And we must remember these ahadith and spread, because that's what the Prophet ﷺ does. From Allah, he's telling us the reality. He's making it clear, the badness of this. You know, because people, when they advertise alcohol or cigarettes or drugs or whatever, they make it look nice. That's why Allah said in the Quran, Shaitan beautifies their deeds for them. You know, no one comes and says, take drugs, you will die tomorrow. No one says it. Shaitan doesn't send his group and himself to say that. They come and say, look, this is nice. It will make you forget your problems and things like that. They beautify. So we as Muslims who know the reality and the truth, we must say the reality. The reality. What is the reality of a person who commits haram? And that's why the Prophet ﷺ in some cases he said rude things. Rude things, very rude things. Swear words almost. To show the gravity of that sin. And to show the badness, like riba. Many people, they take riba, they say no problem, it's money. It's legal, they say. No, riba is haram. The Prophet ﷺ said riba is 72 or 73 degrees. Up and down. The lowest degree, the lightest riba is like to have sex with your mother. When you say that, people say, A'udhu Billah, how can you say this? I said, I didn't say it. The Prophet ﷺ said it to show the gravity of the sin. And Allah said, if you don't give up riba, then get good news, or news that you are fighting Allah and the Messenger. Allah and the Messenger have declared war. What do you think of drugs? So they pollute our brain, they pollute our body. And I want to mention worse than drugs, alien ideologies that go against Tawheed, against Islam, against the Sunnah. Like we have now many people believing the Arab Spring and things like that. We have seen what the Arab Spring has done. So-called Arab Spring. Who benefits? Not the Arabs, not the Muslims. Someone benefits, but not us. So we must be men enough, even if you're a woman, you must be brave enough to speak against it. Not because we want dunya, no, we want akhirah. Because this is what Allah said we must do. We must speak against alien ideologies. But for that you must know. We all must learn. So we don't say what we say seeking the dunya, because that is not, this is a haram intention. We don't get any reward, we will be punished. So we must do so wanting the akhirah, wanting Allah, wanting to get close to Him, and wanting to be close to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam on the day of judgment and in the hereafter. Because in this dunya we couldn't be close to Him alayhi salam. But if you're close to Him in this dunya, to His sunnah, you will be close to Him inshallah in person on the day of judgment and in Jannah. So that means we must learn, we must have some education. For that reason, I make dua that Allah helps us to learn our beautiful and great religion, and to learn our great book, the Quran, and to learn the sunnah of our great Prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I make dua to Allah to protect all the Muslims, the rulers and the ruled, and to help them to follow and to make Tawheed and Sunnah uppermost. And I make dua that Allah enables all the Muslims to support His religion, and to enable the rulers of the Muslims to have good company from the scholars of Islam and trustworthy ministers and pious people around them, so they can be helped by Allah. Because someone who is not helped by Allah, there is no helper for him. People can't help anyone who is not helped by Allah. So we ask Allah day and night. This is from the Aqidah of Ahlul Sunnah. To ask in your sujood, to ask in times of answering the prayer, dua for the Muslims and for their rulers and for everyone else. We have so many brothers suffering everywhere. In Syria, in Iraq, everywhere, around the world. So we must sometimes remember them, at least once a day. And we must remember when we eat, many of them are hungry. So we ask Allah and make dua for them and for the rulers and for the rulers of our country, because this is our country, that's where we are staying, the Emirates. We make dua for them that Allah protects them from everything that is haram and enables them to do everything that is Islam and everything that is Sunnah. Wa aqimus salah.